What's up and welcome to Champions of Lore, a show where each week, I already script, I don't know what I'm doing. What's up and welcome to Champions of Lore, a show where each week we talk about the awesome lore behind some of Idle Champions' coolest campaigns and characters. Every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on twitch.tv/CNE Games, or later on your favorite podcast service, B. Dave Walters and Erin M talk about all the Idle Champions lore that's fun to know about. If you're with us live in the chat, you can leave a question that I, Treavor Bettis, will ask them later in the show. But until then, Erin, B. Dave, take it away.
Hi, I'm Erin M. I'm the author of the Brimstone Angels Saga, a 6-book series set in the Forgotten Realms featuring 3 of your favorite Idle Champions, Farida, Havilar, and Mehen. I'm also the author of the forthcoming Empire of Exiles, which, if you've been on Twitter, you may have noticed. Wait, this way. Has a new cover, finally! That's what it looks like. My book has a face. And a very nice quote from Ed Greenwood on it. So if you have not listened to me yammer about pre-ordering, what a great time to pre-order now that you can see what you're pre-ordering.
Yeah.
There's a link in the tweet. I'm also a content designer for Idle Champions, and I play Cecilia on Dungeon Scrawlers.
Yeah, but go pre-order the book. Do it now.
Do pre-order the book. We've all done it. All the cool kids have it. I'm just saying. Now you've seen the cover. There's nothing else to wait for because you already know that Erin M. Evans is incredible. Hi, hello, B. Dave Walters, reanimated corpse here. You know, I'm halfway through my Lich transformation. That's why the camera's off. If you haven't heard, yes, I caught the silver bullet of COVID at Gen Con. My streak is over, unfortunately, but that's all right. Because I had to extricate myself from the bed long enough to come here and talk about the Dark Lords.
Dark Lords.
I think I know. You know what's funny? I literally just did that exact thing, Trevor. Not
Here to help.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah.
So we're gonna be talking about some Dark Lords because today during the event of Agiron's Day. I got it. Voronika is coming to the game. Look at that. Is it up here? It's over there. Hey, look at that. Voronika is coming to the game, and spoilers, she's a Dark Lord. And so we thought it'd be fun because we've already talked about druids and whatnot, and apparently I was even corrected that we talked about Eladrin because I did not remember that either. So there is another aspect of Voronika that we have not talked about yet, and that is Dark Lords. So while my camera tries to get me to be a green screen right now, there's a little bit of campfire out there. Where do we all want to start with Dark Lords?
Well, let me talk a little bit about Voronika in particular.
Yeah,
that's a great place to start.
You know, I just said I was going to start there, and then I'm not going to start there. Let me say something about Dark Lords more generally. I'm coasting on fevers and vibes right now, y'all.
Oh, good.
So, what the Dark Lords are in Ravenloft is they're prisoners. It seems like they have these kingdoms, but they don't. They are people that have done terrible things in life and then were chosen by the dark powers to be put into Ravenloft, the Dread Domains, because Ravenloft is technically only one place. The Dread Domains are all of them. And it is a world where it's like the Twilight Zone monkey paw, where you got exactly what you want, but you're still miserable. And that is what they are. So it's like, again, as we've described before, it is a system of dirty bubbles. Where, again, on the surface, it should be idyllic, but it just isn't.
Dude, the way you described that made me think of an SNL sketch with Adam Sandler, where just like, if you're sad at home, if you go to Italy, you're still sad in Italy. It's like, if you're sad as a villain here, you're still going to be a sad villain over here.
Well, especially when it's like, hey, what's everything you ever wanted ever? Here it is. Also, I mean, it's very much the vibe of like the old man in the library with all the time to read that breaks his reading glasses. Yeah. Like that's what Ravenloft is about.
Time now.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like, you get what you want, but you don't get what you need.
Exactly. In all of
Dark
the
Lords
domains
aren't very introspective.
No, they're not. And their domains are a reflection of them. So you can learn a lot about them by paying attention to what their domains are. So Voronika is a Dark Lord that we created for the Black Dice Society, which was part of the plan from the very, very, very beginning, although it didn't happen until episode 40. So that was by a wide margin the longest con I've ever pulled on anybody now.
The fact that it's in
It was
the
very well
artwork.
done.
Yeah.
It's in the artwork and no one noticed it.
It's in the artwork. Yep, that's true. That is true. That's all true. So Voronika is the Dark Lord of the domain of Koshmar, which is a place that V created. She created Voronika. She also created Koshmar as their home, which was just kind of a nice place out in the Moonshay Isles. You know, super chill, no big deal. And then some terrible things happened, which I won't tell you if you don't know. Maybe you should watch the show because it's kind of great.
Or listen to it.
Or listen to it wherever you find your
Options.
podcast. We have the world's hunkiest podcast editor. That's true. And Koshmar was plucked up and dropped into the Dread Domains. People have asked me about this. Like, for instance, Barovia, when Strahd became a Dark Lord. It's like, are these places physically picked up and taken away? And the answer is both. Some of these places are gone from the prime material plane. Some of these places are created from scratch. Barovia was taken from the prime material plane when Aslan Rex, who we'll talk about in a little bit, left Barovia and just went out into the mist. Darkon was formed around him from scratch. So the answer is both. And I'm gonna stop monologuing for a second.
It's okay.
Give your voice a break.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Barovia there, and I think, you know, most people, when they think of a Dark Lord and whatnot, because it is so tight, so closely tied to Ravenloft, Strahd is one of the first people that comes to mind. And yeah, I also think Strahd's kind of like the picture example of the Dark Lord, where it's just like he's got everything that he wanted, but sort of, but not really. But he also hates everything.
Yeah. Yeah, the OG version of Ravenloft, which, you know, was the original D&D horror setting. Count Strahd von Zarovich is a legally distinct Count Dracula. And Ravenloft is his actual castle, like his physical place where he chills in the domain of Barovia. So that's where the word Ravenloft comes from. It's a combination of his mother and father's names, I think, if I recall correctly.
King Barov and Queen Ravenovia.
Yeah, damn, well done.
So the original game, the mists surrounded all of the area, so you couldn't leave ultimately, but the kingdoms were just kingdoms that kind of bordered each other, like Borka and Valkovnia and Darkon and stuff. It's just like, no, it's over there type thing. The idea that they're even far more siloed in the mists border everywhere is kind of a new version of this, like, latest edition of Ravenloft, because they brought back.
I like to think that the mists is what makes them the dirty bubbles.
Literally, yeah. Well, and one thing I've mentioned before, it's. I mean, horror is difficult to tell a horror story appropriately, but one of the best things about Ravenloft is there's aspects of storytelling that are like mad lazy in any other setting that just work great in Ravenloft. Like, you just go to sleep one place and you wake up in another place, you know, like the mists roll in and now, you know, things happen. Yeah, you know,
you're in Borka.
That is true.
Yeah, you had a weird dream, roll initiative. Yeah, like all of that. Yeah.
That is very handy, because transitions are frequently the worst.
I did just realize that I literally did that in my Ravenloft game, where it was like, you're having a dream, roll initiative.
Well, you can there in a way that you can't in the other settings.
It's true. It's true. So I think one of the things, though, that I wanted to ask here, though, is what is it that what is it that gives a Dark Lord power? Like, how do they go about getting that? Like, is it something that you can pursue, or is it something that just happens? Is there somebody that decides on this?
So there are entities known as the Dark Powers that have never been explained or expressed. The Dark Powers choose these people. I say people, not everybody's people. Like in Blue Spur, it is an Elder Brain from the Mind Flayers. So not every Dark Lord is a people. But the Dark Powers choose them and bring them here and basically trap them. Nobody knows what they are or why. But Ravenloft is physically located in the Shadowfell, so it is under the kind of the purview of the Raven Queen. So by extension, they must have something to do with the Raven Queen, because she's not going to let these people just be. Yes, Erin.
I have a developing theory that the Dark Powers are actually B-Dave Walters.
What? I mean, for like the last year and a half.
Yeah, it kind of has been.
Well, and for the live game that we did at Gen Con, the audience was the Dark Powers.
Ooh.
Oh, really?
I allowed them to toy with the people as they willed, you know.
Nice.
So yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so good.
So again, you just have to have been terrible in life, and for some reason they find you to an unknown end by an unknown power. Quite frankly, I think it's like I said, there's stuff you can do that would be mad lazy in any other thing. I think that was a conscious choice. That it's just like dark powers, bro. I don't know. I mean,
Is what it is.
yeah, could be anybody. Yeah, yeah. So, but the direct correlation between the Raven Queen and Ravenloft, I mean, besides even the fact that her name is in it, has never like clearly been expressed. In the current iteration, there's the Ezra, Lady of the Mists, who is a god inside Ravenloft, who is a projection of the Raven Queen. Which the way I told in the story, that it's like basically just every once in a while, it's like putting your head down in a pool and looking around. You know what I mean? She's like, what the hell's happening in here? Okay. All right. Great. You know? I'm gonna go do more Raven Queen stuff.
It's kind of like the DM putting in their like their character into the campaign so they could just occasionally pop up and be like, hey, I'm here. I'm doing things.
I don't know what kind of person would do such a thing. That seems completely made up. Yeah,
you're right. How dare I? I'm just making up terrible lies and slander.
Freely has been to Ravenloft, and spoiler alert, he didn't care for it.
I can't imagine he would.
Yeah,
can't imagine that he would.
Does not feel.
Yeah, just every time turn on that divine sense, and there's undead and fiends everywhere, and it's like, oh, okay, well, great. Right.
Does becoming a Dark Lord mean that you're going to get a Dread domain? Like, is that kind of like hand in hand?
Yes, although not all Dread domains are created equal. Dark Lords like Strahd, Aslan Rex have entire kingdoms, you know, with thousands of subjects. So Falkovnia is the same way. The Headless Horseman literally has a bridge. The House of Lament is a house.
Sorry, I just
I
realized that where they're just like, "Hey, good news! You get to be part of the Dread domains. Oh, awesome!
I'm a Dark Lord.
You got a bridge.
You're like 20 feet.
Yeah.
Do I at least get some of the dirt that's on the each end of the bridge? No.
That belongs to the dark powers. Keep your hands to yourself.
I must admit, that is objectively worse, by the way. Speaking as somebody who's in quarantine, you know what I mean? They're like, you're immortal. You are lord of this land that is roughly 10 by 10. You know? But there is some non-specific correlation between how evil you were in life and how big your domain is, though. But I mean, but also I still feel like that's worse. You know what I mean?
So much worse.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, is like, okay, there's a tipping point. There's a point at which you are too evil to be processed along the normal sort of life afterlife schedule of everybody else. The dark powers have taken notice of you. They have plucked you from, you know, existence and said, you are trapped here with everything you thought you wanted, right? You have gone over the edge. And what do? You get a bridge. And you're just like, why did I even bother at that point? I feel like you're like, I have made the wrong choice because this is it.
This is actually worse. Yeah, unless the Headless Horseman is just like super fulfilled by just cutting his heads off.
Maybe the Headless Horseman is like a tiny house person.
Yes.
And he's like, okay, I feel secure. I feel secure and safe on this bridge. I don't feel like, you know, the whole world is spilling in all directions. My agoraphobia is sated by just having this bridge, which is all mine.
You know,
nobody else can be here.
This is one of those things, like, remember,
I certainly understand this.
remember the debate of, you know, Cthulhu is pleased, he will eat you last, and it's like, no, Cthulhu is pleased, he will eat you first. You know, it's like the dark powers are like, we're gonna give you something a little manageable, bro. A little manageable. There you go. You see the whole thing. Yeah.
I like that. There's something kind in there of like, you don't want to rule a kingdom. That sounds like a headache. Your job is your dominion is, you can cross this bridge, you can't cross this bridge, you can cross this bridge, but I'm gonna cut your head off.
Well, see, that's the thing. I just imagine that the Headless Horseman just like up in the rafters of the covered bridge with like a sword. He's just like, oh, I'm just so freaking ready to cut off a head. Get away.
Yeah. Guess what we're doing today? Yeah. In Van Richten's guide, near the end of the book, there's very significant chapters on most of the major domains, and then there's just kind of a list of little ones near the end that you kind of can just like prompts. And one of them is the Vage Detective Agency, where she's literally a detective, and it's her office, and that's the Dread Domain. Yeah.
What?
She's got a gun. She's got a flintlock pistol. Yeah. And yeah, that's her thing. So again, she's literally a workaholic to the end of all things.
Foggy's got a gun.
I'm like, thank you. That's been our show. Yeah.
Yep. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
So there are quite a few Dark Lords out there.
Yep.
And like we said, we mentioned Strahd, but yeah, I think one of the other ones is someone else that you've mentioned, Aslan Rex.
Yep.
The big old lynch boy.
Yep.
That's my name for him now, and I'm not giving it up.
I mean, it's not inaccurate. Yeah. So recall that we've talked before about how Greyhawk's #1 export is evil wizards.
Yep.
Not sure why. That again, not only it's something about Greyhawk that not only creates evil wizards, but they all immediately want to leave Greyhawk. Yeah. So
like Ohio and astronauts.
Exactly that. Like I need to go so far.
Yeah. How do I get as far as possible away from Ohio?
Exactly. I need to depart Earth. Yes. Yeah. So Aslan's deal was he was a king in Greyhawk. He killed his own son, Iluk. Eric. Ilaluk is one of the cities there. Eric, I think, is his son. Killed his son, and left and stumbled into the mists and ended up in Barovia. He and Strahd had a bromance for a while. They're very much as kind of a friends to lovers subplot there, or else the fact that they're so mad at each other doesn't really work if you think about it. Where they kind of worked. So the Barovia in Ravenloft was the first Dread Domain. And Aslan and Strahd tried to work together to find a way out to leave. At some point, they couldn't get along anymore, and Aslan rage quit and just left again and walked out into the mist, and then Darkon formed around him. Aslan Rex literally means king. Because when he came into the mist, he could only speak the language from Greyhawk, and they were like, "Who are you?" And he was like, "I'm Aslan Rex." You know, like
king.
I'm the king. Yeah. So his actual name is lost to history. But then he went and Darkon formed around him. So one of the big deals about the end of the last Ravenloft setting was there was something called the Day of Ascension, where Aslan was trying to figure out a way to get loose. And it wasn't clear whether or not he'd accomplished it. And in the book, he's just gone. And because he's gone, Darkon is falling apart. And other Dark Lords, would-be Dark Lords, are fighting to kind of like take the throne. In our story, we very much answered like where he is and what he's been doing this whole time. But that's the situation in Darkon, you know, when you crack the cover on Van Richten's guide.
Has a Dark Lord ever escaped like back into like the material plane or anything like that?
Aslan's the closest.
Yeah.
Actually Vecna got loose too.
Was Vecna a Dark Lord at one point?
Vecna was.
What?
Interesting.
Vecna got loose. Also,
his dark domain was Hawkins.
Also, Lord Soth is capable of being redeemed, because Lord Soth is D&D's Darth Vader, legally distinct. And the thing that sets Soth apart is Soth actually feels bad for the things he's done. The rest of them don't.
Also, he's
that
been
is
hit by a
Vader.
lightning rail.
Also, what? Wait,
Also, he got hit by a lightning rail.
You know, as one does.
That also is a thing that other Dark Lords haven't experienced, I don't
Canon.
think.
That is true.
That's
literally
not
happened.
canon. That's fine, but I'm still gonna crow about it.
We say it's canon here, dang it.
It's true. It's not canon. Again, it's Ravenloft. You had a weird dream, but it happened, you know? Yeah, so that's the deal with Soth. The rest of them are irredeemable because they're well, quite frankly, they're evil, you know. Even they'll make excuses, or like a lot of them are aware of the things that they've done that were wrong, but they still feel like Aslan, for instance, is aware of the fact that killing his son was not optimal, but he's kind of like, son shouldn't have sucked. You know, Strahd killed his brother Sergei. You know, he's like, he shouldn't have come near my woman. Right. Actually, in Van Richten's guide currently, Sithicus, Lord Soth's domain, isn't even in here. We brought it into Black Dice Society because we brought it back from the past. But the past. But that is one thing that is unusual about that character in particular. The rest of them, they just kind of have to be appeased and evaded. On occasion, they can be fought. They can even be killed, but they come back. It's a loop. So that's like, even if you beat Strahd in 50 years, 100 years, or whatever, he'll come back again, and the whole process will begin again.
As someone who runs games that, like, all my home games take place in the same timeline and everything like that, I genuinely enjoy that, because I had a group go through Curse of Strahd and defeat him, but I had it set like 200 years prior to everything else, so I'm like, I get to use Strahd again soon.
Well, the book doesn't say whether or not Strahd is aware of this. In our story, we knew Aslan knew, and basically was like, Strahd doesn't know. In the way Jason Carl played it for us, who is our Strahd, was like, of course I know, but what difference does it make? You know, they come to the castle. Sometimes I wreck their faces. Sometimes they wreck my face. It's just Tuesday. You know, yeah.
That makes sense with it being Jason Carl. Like that definitely sounds like his sort of Strahd of just like, why do I care?
Yeah. Just tremendous boredom. You know?
And I do think that's one of the things that does make the Dark Lords in general like so terrifying. Is like there's like, why should I care? Why should I care how any of this goes other than the way I want it to?
I will say, the times I've played characters like that, the times I've played truly old, truly powerful characters, I almost always lean into indifference. I'm like, after thousands of years, you wouldn't be malevolent anymore. You know what I mean? You're like, I've hurt so many people. Like, okay, you know, like, you know, I've seen everything. A big part of that was Vampire Hunter D, the anime, Count Magnus Lee, who was 10,000 years old. And he was like, it's just boredom everlasting. He's like, I've seen everything. You know, and like, I think that was just such a like formative thing so early for me in storytelling that it's like, most of my big bands are like that it's like, I wouldn't be like, mwahaha. I'm like, I used to mwahaha. I'm mwahaha'd for a very long time. Now it's like, but let me tell you about some of these specific dread domains. So Bloodspur is the Mind Flayer domain. And the thing about Bloodspur is you don't go to Bloodspur, you remember having been to Bloodspur.
Absolutely terrifying.
Cool detail.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. And the Dark Lord there is the Godbrain, which was an elder brain of the Mind Flayers that is sick and dying. Which, recall when we talked about Mind Flayers, they the elder brains are formed basically by adding the brains of other Mind Flayers to this like central mass.
So gross.
Shout out to our homie Encephalithid. And they are aware of each other, but they don't necessarily like work together, if that makes sense. Like they're all of them are trying to be the top one. And the Godbrain was sick and dying and quite frankly going a little mad. And the rest of them got together and banished it. And they banished it out to the far realms. And the dark powers found it in the far realms and brought it to the dread domains. And that's
they
where
have
Bloodspur
quite
comes
the
from.
jurisdiction.
Indeed they do. Indeed they do. So the Godbrain is there doing like twisted psychic things, all your Lovecraftian goodness, anything you teeth and tentacles, you can find them in Bloodspur.
Yeah, the episode of Black Dice Society, again, I won't spoil things if people haven't seen it, but the episode in Bloodspur is, I remember editing it, and I literally messaged me to him, I'm like, how am I supposed to write a description for this? This is one of the best things I've ever heard, but how the hell am I supposed to write a description for this?
To which I say, you're welcome. Yeah.
All worked out. Oh, God.
I was gonna say, I mean, we've been to a bunch of them, but I'm just kind of picking the ones we spent like any significant time in. So then there's the carnival. So the deal with the carnivals is literally a carnival. and it can travel around, and it's one of the ones that has kind of a it works well for like a core inciting incident for a lot of stories because it can come to you.
Mhm.
If you've read The Wild Beyond the Witchlight Carnival and this carnival, the owners swapped. So Isolde.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, again, this is the part where I complain that if you read about Zybilna in the carnival and Van Richten's, she's just this horrific monster. And if you read about Zybilna in the carnival in the Witchlight Carnival, she's just sort of like this hapless fairy godmother who's just been trapped.
She
Spoil-
contains multitudes, and some of the multitudes are terrible.
Spoiler alert, she's a monster. So
she's got layers.
Exactly. And she'll peel your layers. Well, because, spoiler alert, Zybilna is Tasha, another evil wizard from Greyhawk. So Asararak, Vecna,
Hey!
Tasha, Aslan Rex. Am I forgetting anybody?
They did like the
Vecna.
Greyhawk reunion.
Did you say Vecna?
I did say Vecna. Vecna, Asararak, Aslan Rex, Tasha.
I
Yeah,
think there's other ones,
there
Yeah,
probably
I mean,
are.
Honestly, even if there's just the 4, that's 4 too many.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Now-
I guess Soth can do a little magic, maybe.
Soth
Soth is from Dragonlance.
Oh, that's right, Dragonlance. That's right.
So now notice I said Soth is the only Dark Lord that can be redeemed. That's kind of not true, because Isolde also can be redeemed, but Isolde is not the Dark Lord. The sword's the Dark Lord. She just carries the sword.
Mm.
So if you can get the sword away from her, there's ways to still reach her because she's not evil. She's just got PTSD. And she is looking for revenge on the Caller, who love the Caller. The Caller is one of my favorite characters of all time. In the old Ravenloft, it was the Gentleman Caller, who was a succubus, who was literally just trying to spawn a lot of offspring.
Oh, Jesus.
In the new iteration, the Caller is this non-specific entropic force that is just out here to create chaos to an unknown end. In our story, we mostly put the face of a woman named Rose on the Caller, that she could kind of come and interact with them and just be like doing dirt on occasion. But Isolde is looking for the Caller to get revenge for things I won't tell you that the Caller did, although the Caller super did. All right, I've been monologuing. I'm gonna stop.
Yeah, no. To give your voice a break, I was looking at the other Dreadlords on the wiki, and I found the Vecna one, and I also found the book that this happened in, where it was in Ravenloft. It was written by Monty Cook, it was freaking cool.
Hey.
Yeah,
I know that guy.
Yeah. But yeah, it says Ravenloft Adventure and then Vecna Reborn. But the artwork on it,
Okay.
I kind of want to get this artwork and frame it because it's the closest I've ever seen to like a D&D villain looking like, "Hey, what's up, MTV Cribs? Come check out my pad." And it's so good because it's Vecna just kind of standing nonchalant next to like a wall of skeletons.
My castle.
I really love it. Yes, please. Everyone look up Ravenloft Vecna Reborn. I want to frame this and put it in my house. It's so good.
That is pretty. That is just like yo, dog, yo.
I heard you like tortured souls of the damned, so put some tortured souls of the damned on your tortured souls of the damned wall.
All completely accurate. I mean, that's a dope robe too. Like
it is a dope robe. It is a dope robe. Yeah,
you would rock that robe.
I absolutely. Well, and honestly, I kind of look like that right now. So it's you know what? In everybody's head canon, let's just go and say I look like that right now. Yeah.
All right, you know what? I'm here for it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also just felt my brain was not working because it's like doesn't look like he has his left hand. Of course, he doesn't have his left hand. Treavor, it's Vecna.
Womp.
That's his whole shtick.
Literally his whole shtick. But yeah. So what was Vecna's place? It was Cavitas. Oh, there's nothing written on there. I have no further information for you. Would you like to know more? Too bad.
This adventure is very like it is jam-packed full of horror tropes.
Oh,
There is
really?
a Rosemary's Baby thing going on where like Vecna reborn means literally there's this pregnant lady who's carrying what might become Vecna. There's lots of human sacrifice.
I got
It's a lot.
I got the cover text here. From the depths of antiquity he arises. Trapped in a mockery of his former kingdom he broods. In hatred and spite against the one who betrayed him he schemes. The other lords of Ravenloft may possess horrific power, but Vecna is a god. Trapped by the mist of Ravenloft, the Lich Lord Vecna plots his escape and revenge against Cass the Destroyer, his traitorous former lieutenant. Vecna Reborn takes brave heroes into the dark oppressed domain of Tor Gorak, where Cass whips his subjects into submission to serve the never-ending war against Vecna in Cavitas, a realm in the grip of the ancient magic and malevolent undeath. The heroes must struggle to stop arcane rituals, insane cultists, and monstrous abominations from granting Vecna, the chained god, the power to fulfill his dark dreams. Vecna Reborn presents a terrifying tale of betrayal, madness, and sorcery that may tear apart the demi-plane of dread itself.
That's so metal. I love it.
And-
I'm not gonna lie. I went to DM's Guild and I'm like, oh, this is on there, and it's a 2e adventure, but I could convert it. This sounds cool.
It is a chain of horror tropes.
I love.
Remember,
In the best possible way.
Remember, I mentioned the like small list of dread domains near the end of the book. Kaz's domain is in Van Richten's guide. He's still in there.
Oh, really?
It's called Tovag now instead of Torgrok.
Yep.
But yeah, Kaz thinks he's like constantly preparing for war with Vecna. Vecna doesn't even know where he is or care where he is. I guess he probably knows. Maybe he knows.
It's that Mad Men meme of just like, I feel so sorry for you. I don't think about you at all.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So if you go into Tovag, you're going to get recruited into the never-ending undead army that Kaz is assembling to fight Vecna, who never ever shows up.
I do like that in Van Richten's guide, it's like Dark Lord, Cause the Bloody Handed, hallmarks, undead military dictatorship. Okay.
This is the guy who took Vecna's eye in hand.
Oh.
And who technically has the sword that can destroy Vecna, or destroy the eye in the hand if they are properly attached to someone.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, all you're doing is sending it somewhere else.
Yep.
Fun times.
It's like a puzzle with narcissists and undead.
Yep. Kaz is a vampire, turned on Vecna and dropped his tower on his head. Yep. And there was just the eye and the hand left.
If you want to defeat Vecna, you have to find the eye and the hand, but don't find them too fast because then Vecna will find you. But you also have to get the sword, but you don't want the sword. You don't want Kaz to know you've got the sword because Kaz wants the sword back because he thinks he has to fight Vecna in Ravenloft. It's a logic puzzle.
Also, the sword is intelligent and the sword really wants to destroy the eye and the hand.
That too.
Yeah.
And, you could be collateral damage. It doesn't care.
Correct.
I love this. This is the kind of stuff that I love. I'm here for this. This is why.
Again, friends to lovers, to enemies, friends to lovers, to enemies.
So I think before we check in with chat, remember chat, you can put in question : and then a question about anything that we're talking about here, and we will get to those at the end of the episode. But
let me just point out two quick ones if I can.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to go to. Yeah, which ones you wanted to go?
Cartacus, Harkon Lucas. It is the performance domain, where Harkon Lucas wants to be famous so bad, but he's doomed to always be forgotten. Basically, like everybody in his domain thinks he's dead or retired. And then the Sire 1313, the Morning Rail, which I've mentioned that one lots of times.
So cool.
It was the last train out of Sire and Eberron, and it didn't make it, and they don't know it. So it's just a ghost train.
The Dark Lord of that?
It's like a masked person. You don't know who it is. It's like some it's like a VIP that is up at the front.
The Last Passenger.
Yup.
That's a cool name.
Yup.
That's very cool.
So the reason why the train didn't make it is they held it, waiting for that person to come and get on board, because they could have escaped and they didn't, because they delayed it to make sure this person got on board. And when they got on board, the explosion went off and the train was caught. But it's forever.
Cool.
Ghost train.
That's really cool. Yeah. The other one that I was gonna bring up, another one that's been on Black Dice Society, was Falkovnia.
Valkovnia, yeah, with the Vladeska Drakov, yeah.
Your voice every time gets me.
So, no, full disclosure, telling stories in Falkovnia was tough because when I first started, and it's like a vaguely non-specific Eastern European fascist hellscape, was fine until certain real-world events happened that telling a story in a vaguely Eastern European fascist hellscape became a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
Valkov, so Vladeska Drakov conquered Falkovnia, but every night of the full moon, zombie hordes attack Falkovnia. And her dark secret is the fact that she recognizes every single one of them because it's all people she's killed or her own soldiers and stuff. So it's kind of like basically she's actually living what Kaz thinks that he's living, where it's every month is basically preparing, and every month the zombies win a little more and a little more of the land is lost, as they're like basically perpetually on their heels.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've always heard it's like if you want to run the zombie apocalypse, you put it in Falkovnia.
Literally, yeah. Again, with a smattering of vaguely Eastern European fascist hellscape.
Yes. Okay, so and before we jump over to check in with chat, any last thoughts from either of you about Dark Lords, Dark Domains, and all that fun stuff? Okay.
I will say Lemortia. Lemortia is non-specifically Frankenstein's monster. If you ever want to do that story, that's you said in Lemortia.
It's fun times there.
Basically any of the universal monsters you can do in a legally distinct way in one of these dread domains.
Yeah, there's the mummy, there's creature from Black Lagoon, Wolfman,
Dracula. It's pretty much legally distinct.
Yes, indeed. Perfect place to scare your players. All right, let's check in with chat, and we're gonna start off with Autius. I'm going to go with Autius. Question, how do the Shatterkai interact with the Dark Lords?
I mean, I don't know that they do.
Yeah. I think only in and of the places where they are, pulled into the mists like anybody else. Because the Dread Domains are separated from the Shadowfell. They are in it, but they're like, it's like a walled city inside, right?
Yeah. It's like the Lower East Side. A very Lower East Side.
Yeah, I've always in my head had the Shatterkai as more interacting with like the Raven Queen and whatnot, and not so much really going too much into the Dread Domains unless there was a reason for it. But I think during my Ravenloft campaign I had Shatterkai show up a couple times, but not in connection with Strahd.
What I will say is, again, back to the thing that you can do stuff in these stories you can't do elsewhere. The Dark Lords decide who can come and go. So if you want Shatterkai to have just rolled in, you could, Yeah, but I would say like innately or on a large scale, there's not really anything.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to J McUnyielding. Says, question, so the dirty bubbles of Ravenloft ostensibly exist in the Shadowfell. Do they occupy a physical space? Could they perhaps be relocated at times?
I think the fact that they're sort of irredeemable means that you probably the Dread Domain returning is unlikely. But what did you guys do with Koshmar? Because
Koshmar got taken away.
So is there just a hole there, or it was was it an island?
It was on an island. Nobody's gone back to the prime material to check.
So we don't know yet.
I will say in Curse of Strahd there is an ending where Barovia is restored. So there's a way. Yeah.
The way that one I did, because when I got to the end of that campaign, I was like, okay, so does it go back to Forgotten Realms? Does it do this? Does it do that? And it is kind of ambiguous, and I think I kind of left it up in my head that it's the sun rose again in Barovia when Strahd was killed, but it was still very much in the mists. It was like a Dread Domain that's happy for a little while, or at least not as bad for a little while. but
Well-
it's still there.
Also, another thing that is tricky is when the domain gets brought over, there's humans that can get brought over as well with the Dark Lord. There's humans that can be born there, but there's also humans that are created expressly as playthings for the Dark Lords. Like they're basically just like NPCs in the drama. So
Mhm.
I don't know what would happen to those people if suddenly you sent it back and they only ever existed to be the cobbler, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah,
yeah.
and I mean, so many, like in Curse of Strahd, they're like, yeah, pretty much very few people in Barovia have a soul because they just exist there.
Yep.
There was a finite amount of souls when it got there. That's all the souls we get.
Yep. Yep. So it's canonical that Barovians cannot dance.
That's right.
They have no soul.
That is right. I like that. Jamie Yielding has another question. Are there any major traits all Dark Lords seem to share aside from being just generally awful individuals?
I feel like they're
Selfishness.
all screaming narcissists.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there is no self-reflection because self-reflection is a little death. And
Yep.
so therefore they will never realize what their problem is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm finally having a coughing fit over here. But
It's all good. Take your time.
For me, and I think we've talked about this before, the spectrum from good to evil is selflessness to selfishness.
Yep.
And they're all tremendously selfish.
Yes.
You know, they feel like they're the ones that have been wronged in the midst of all of this. I'd say that's the number one characteristic.
They're the type that get the dread domain, they get the dark powers, and then see all the bad stuff, and they're just like, but I don't deserve this. Like, I deserve all of this good stuff. Why is this happening to me?
This is so unfair. Why do I
So
just have a bridge?
unfair.
Exactly. Mhm.
No one knows how hard I have it.
Not
Yeah.
even supposed to be here today.
My god. Doing a freaking Clerk's Dread domain where it's just the convenience
Just
store.
a convenience store. Yep,
Oh
it would
my
work.
god.
I just now in my head, the headless horseman like complains like a mean girl, but you can't hear it because it doesn't have a head.
Oh, I
Love
love
it.
that. He's sitting in his covered bridge up in the rafters with his burn book, just like this jerk got away from me. He's mean.
Yeah. I even wore pink today.
I even wore pink today.
Love it.
Jamie Yielding with a third question. Again, I saw you say it in the chat. Sorry for all the questions. Don't feel bad about asking questions. That's what we want to do. So ask all the questions. Don't worry about it.
You're helping us.
Question. So some versions allow people, parentheses, like Whittle, to replace Strahd as Dark Lord of Barovia. Could other Dark Lords be replaced in theory? And what might happen to the original Dark Lord if they still exist at that point?
Yeah, theoretically you could replace them,
Yep.
but for me, and this has come up, if you replace the Dark Lord, the domain would change because it was
My
a
feeling.
Yeah.
yeah, it was a reflection of that person. Your evil will be different.
your evil may vary.
Exactly. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
kind of
no-
like oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was gonna say it's like that replacing you know, there must always be a Lich King, like when Arthas died type thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean, one of the hooks in Curse of Strahd is that Strahd could be looking for his replacement.
mhm.
And I always thought that was an absolutely fascinating hook. I didn't end up going with it, but I really love the idea of Strahd just like testing a group of adventurers, be like, who's going to now be the evil one? Who's going to take over my dread domain and whatnot? I also like the idea of Strahd being like, you know, I've had a good run. I might move down to Miami.
Well, especially because past a certain point, it's like he's not afraid to die. He's like, this might not work. It might collapse and kill us all. It's all right.
Nah, it'll be fine.
Yep.
It'll be fine.
Mhm.
This is from oh my gosh, give me 1 second. Selen Drasama.
Gesundheit.
They found the title Specter Specter of the Black Rose. It's a novel that Lord Soth is in and returns to Kryn.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
I'm trying to get more into the Dragonlance book. I got the 3 original ones and I got the new one, so I'm trying to read them. I'm just very slow at reading.
I'm right there with you, brother.
Yep.
But I do have crazy high retention.
Yes. Cassius335 question. Says, with apologies to B-Dave, does the D&D lore have any particular notable plagues? But the thing is, though, is that I think spell plague is really the closest that it gets to.
Well, so actually there's in Forgotten Realms there are a lot of diseases and I know this because I've used some of them. The only one that there's the two that I know off the top of my head are feather lung, which is
that
basically,
sounds lovely.
Yeah, it's a respiratory disease where your lungs kind of desiccate and it's very hard to keep the moisture in them. And so that is in the Godcatcher. The main character's parents died in a feather lung epidemic, and she also had it. And so when she gets dumped in the sewers and has to hold her breath, it is scary because she can't. And then the other one is shaking fever that I know of, because that is again one where you get a really bad fever and you have tremors. You get kind of delirious. Voronika gets shaking fever and fire in the blood because Lorcan poisons her, so she won't go on this rescue mission.
Well, that's rude.
Yeah, their relationship's not good.
Yeah.
But what do you want when you make a warlock pact with a devil who's not sorted his stuff out? So those are the two I know of: shaking fever, and featherlung. I know there are others because I discarded a lot of options for both of those cases that weren't appropriate. But those two stick in my head.
What's up?
I was gonna say I got a list here.
Hey.
Let's see: black lung fever, black tongue, dark rot, feather lung, flesh rot, green rot, marsh fever, shaking plague, spotted plague, whitewashing, and winter chill fever.
Jeez.
Yeah, winter chill fever is kind of like pneumonia.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I'm dealing with.
Our green paradox cure disease is going to be busy. Yeah, that I've only ever had the spell plague in it just because like plague stuff has always just made me even before COVID, and at least with spell plague it's like it's fantastical. It turns them into like evil spell flinging things.
Power.
Yeah,
and a drawback.
Yeah. I was playing in a TTRPG campaign that I will not name, and when COVID started heating up, the plot beat we were at was a plague was in the city, and it was very similar to what was going on, and I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, it's different these days.
Yeah,
I made a conscious choice in all of my stories, even the ones like Vampire said in the real world, that there was no COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a world where, I mean, like a lot of games like Pandemic and stuff really did start selling more right at the beginning of it. So there's something to be said for just like turning into the skid.
Yeah.
But all things being equal, I feel like that's not what people want.
No.
Yeah.
Highly advise against it.
Yep. Like I said, I had to take the pedal off the gas of Falcovnia. I was like, oh dear. Oh,
yep.
Okay. Right. Yep. Got it. Yeah.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
This one comes from Lycanus21. Question: if you could make a dread domain for your characters or any other characters you think would make a cool dread domain, what would it be? Or Dark Lord?
Sorry, what was the which kind of character?
Yeah, so essentially, if you could make a dread domain with one of your characters or another character, which one would it be? Which one would become a Dark Lord?
Oh man,
Freely's Dark Dread. I mean, he's such a sweet boy that he couldn't end up with a dread domain, but
right.
You know, conceptually of the like giving him what he thinks he wanted, there would be a lot of fighting, but he would always fail to save his friends in the last moment. Like he would not be strong enough to save his friends perpetually. That would be his torture.
Dang.
I feel like if Havilar had a dread domain, it would also involve a lot of fighting. But actually, I think the thing that would be the worst is that everybody would praise her a lot for her skills, but it would all be really easy. It would be like, here, fight this limping goblin with a wooden sword, and then everybody like, oh, that was amazing, and she's like, you're patronizing me. I hate it. I hate it. And probably like on the side, like Farida does something really amazing and people are like, that's nothing. And she's like, I literally know you're patronizing me. I'm not stupid. I think that would really probably eat her up. Because she'd always be looking for something bigger to fight. And then if adventurers showed up, she'd make them fight her.
I think I would do my character Char Drakesbane. His entire point is that his family was like, all right, you're getting kicked out of the family home until you kill a dragon because we're famous monster slayers and you have to kill a dragon. And there's been a long running joke of him never getting the killing blow on a dragon. A wizard literally used catapult to use his own sword and kill a dragon. So it's not great. So I think the Dread Domain would just be him adventuring, and every time he fights a dragon, something wild happens that stops him from killing it.
That's
yeah. It would just be very annoying for him.
Painful.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Cecilia would have a really tragic Dread Domain, but I can't think of what exactly it would be at this point.
That's fair. I'm messing all the things up. All right, we got time for one more. Let's go with Lurking Writer. Question: why is Dark Lord the accepted state of aristocracy? Are there any Dark Barons, Duchesses, Earls, or Empresses?
I mean,
sorry.
No, please.
Gonna say, I feel like that's the additional thorn in the side of all these narcissistic evildoers is like you can never advance past the Lord Lady level.
Yeah,
they can't aspire to anything.
Yeah, Strahd's the count, Aslan's the king. Yeah,
which like forces you to turn toward
Dark
because
Lord
that's
King.
the thing. Because like that's part of that sort of narcissistic personality is that you always want to make sure you're on the top. Like you want to create a hierarchy and you're the person at the top. And if you know there are other Dark Lords out there that you can never actually interact with for the most part, you can never establish a hierarchy outside of your Dread Domain. It forces you to turn back in. And that's the whole point, is that it's this vortex that constantly pulls them back down into their own pain. So I do think that might be part of it, right? Nobody's a Dark King or a Dark Empress. You're all a Dark Lord or a Dark Lady.
I like that.
You're all equal. Can't do anything about it.
Bum, bum, bum.
I know, that's it's just a socialist hellscape. They were like, not free healthcare. No.
All right. Well, I think that is a good place to wrap things up. Friends.
Someone I don't like gets insulin, though.
Oh, my. Well, friends, where can people find you? What awesome things are you working on?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Erin M. Evans. You can join me every Monday on twitch.tv/Dungeon Scrawlers at 1:30 p.m. Pacific for Concentration Check, a co-writing space. You can also pre-order my new book, Empire of Exiles. I'm very, very excited about it. I won't stop talking about it till November when it comes out. But
yeah.
if you can pre-order it, please pre-order it, because those pre-orders tell the publisher people want to read this book, and good things happen when people want to read books. So thank you very much.
B. Dave Walters, I say words about things. Usually, right this week, you can find me crawling back into my bed.
Please do.
7 episodes of the Black Dice Society left, although we're dark this week because half the cast is freaking COVID. Although the live game we did where they went and finally faced Soth should be up on the Gen Con Twitch. I don't know if we've gotten the VOD for it yet for YouTube. I don't know. But it's up on the Gen Con Twitch if you didn't get to see it. Follow me on the Tweetagrams at bdavewalters. Also, Voronika coming out in 5 minutes. Can we get the Voronika art up here?
Get the Voronika art. There it is. Yeah.
Hey, 5 minutes. Add her to your formation. She's just like just a little spiky, just a little prickly, just a little bit.
Yeah, it's fine. She's fine. No worries. She's not going to kill all of your party or anything.
Probably not. Maybe today.
Do it fine. You can find me on Twitter at the Treavor. There is an A hiding in there, and I will actually be on Dungeon Scrawlers tonight at 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m.
That's right.
Yeah,
Hey.
and I'm gonna be playing Garlock, and Garlock, spoilers, has a cafe now. So,
Trevor, tell you, I did a dry run with Yang Yang on it, and that's gonna be bananas.
I cannot wait. I'm very excited. He
I
has
love
a cafe.
picturing Garlack go through this.
It's called the cafe is called Paul's Beans because he has an owlbear named Paul, and he has little beans on his paw. I cannot wait to run this. I can't believe to play this game. So yeah, that's gonna be happening later tonight on twitch.tv/Dungeon Scrawler. So if you can, hang out in the chat, it'll be great. Yeah, Voronika is coming to the game in 4 minutes. So go in and unlock her during Agaron's day. And yeah, it's going to be a great time and totally not going to kill your entire formation at all. Not an evil Dark Lord. And don't worry, everything will be fine. It's cool. It's great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that is going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you so much to Martin for moderating in the chat. Thank you to Lauren for producing, and thank you to Codename Entertainment for letting us have some fun, talk about some D&D. If you missed any part of the show, you can catch it later as a podcast on your favorite podcast service. And yeah, that is going to be it. And let's see. I think everything is normal today. Yes. Yeah. Mars has a show at 1. And we've got Sketching Art, and we've got New Game Plus. So stick around for that. But that is going to do it for this week's episode. So until next week, Champions out.